They love her when she is submissive, when she is sensual, when she is fine. But they hate her when she expresses what is on the feminine mind. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you may be watching this. Welcome to the Feminine Mind. My name is Linnea, and this is the second episode of Exposing Narcissists. Now, I've had to film this really late at night, okay? So just bear with me as I might slow down. Thank you so much for tuning in. Big up to all of my subscribers, whether you've been here from the beginning of the journey or if you've just subscribed recently. It's a pleasure to have you here, and I look forward to connecting with you all more and getting to know you more. So in the first episode of this series, Exposing Narcissists, I spoke about some of my experiences with narcissistic people, and I also explained 3 ways that you can identify a narcissist. 1, I explained that you can use your intuition. When you fine-tune and develop your intuition, when you trust your intuition, you can allow your intuition to guide you about narcissistic personalities that might be around you. 2, I explained that you can use time and space by allowing someone to simply reveal their character to you. And lastly, I spoke about astrology and how there are certain placements that speak to someone either being a narcissist, a sociopath, or a psychopath. I met a musician called Killa P at a women's rights march that I was invited to perform at in 2022. This march was organized by Afua Rose, who I have coined the trauma pimp, and you can check out the documentary that I've done about her. She is a self-proclaimed women's rights activist, but beneath the facade of women's activism, there's just a lot of holes, a lot of lack of integrity, a lot of narcissism, to be fair, but we'll get to that another time. It was a chaotic march, and during my performance, a man called Milton McGowan was arrested in front of me. It was the craziest thing I have personally ever seen at any performance that I've ever attended or performed at. It was just way out of the box, okay? Now, this was shocking for everyone, but it was very shocking for me, as I have been singing for years and I have never attended or performed at an event that has led to such a scene. Okay, so the guy was arrested. The rest of the march kind of went on without any issues, and at the end of the march, as I was leaving, this man, Patrick Nathaniel Knight, aka Killa P the Pussycat, approached me and he complimented me on my performance, and he basically said to me that he'd like to do a collaboration with me. So I didn't really know him. I'd seen him once on YouTube on the Afua Rose platform, and I was not aware that he was a musician. So I remember saying, "Oh, I didn't know you were a musician," and he was like, "Yeah man, you can check out my music online." So I took his number and decided to check him out when I went home. And during the following week, I did go and listen to his music, and he's pretty good at his musical performances. So I was like, yeah, I have some of these aspects within my own music. I can see why he would ask me to collaborate. But I did feel a little bit uneasy, as I explained in the first video that I did about him, Killa P, a psychopathic wolf, right? And so before I reached out to him, I went online and to see if I could get his birthday, and I got it, and I was able to have a look at his sky, the sky he was born under. And I could tell upon first glance that this guy was by the very least, a narcissist. Didn't think it would be a big issue to me because I had no intention of having a long-term anything with him. And about 3-4 days later, I decided to give him a call. Bear in mind, this is all about we're supposed to be doing some kind of collaboration. I decided to call him just to see what he had in mind. When I spoke to him, the first part of the conversation was about music. I told him I'd listen to his music, etc. And he asked me where I was based. And then he said to me he has a brother who has a studio nearby to where I was at the time. And, you know, we started to make plans. But I noticed very soon into the conversation that Killa P, Patrick Nathaniel Knight, the Pussycat, wanted to speak more about the march than whatever reason he had claimed to reach out to me about. And so he spent a lot of time speaking about Afua Rose in quite an ill way. And this was new to me because I had met him through her platform. And also, he was actually asked to be a security guard for this march. Now, just to be clear, this march was set up to campaign to raise awareness about the assaults of women and children that, according to Afua Rose, has been a consistent thing that's been happening in the South London area. Now, we all know that the assault of women and children happens around the globe. Myself, coming from a Jamaican background, is something that I've grown up seeing, bearing witness to, and experiencing for my own self, which I explore in my documentary series, Life After Death. However, the work of Afua Rose is largely aimed at Brixton and the South London communities, and it turned out that this is where Killa P was born. Like, he's from Stockwell, which is an area that's close to Brixton. And the more that I spoke to him, the more I realized, although he had decided to be a security for the march, he wasn't really in resonance with what this march was about. He didn't really believe in the value of the work that Afua was doing, and he was constantly questioning her integrity and her true motives. Now, I'm an observer, so I don't tend to shut people down. And I took my time to observe everything he had to say. I listened to him. And eventually he brought the whole conversation around to me. And he started to complain about the fact that this man, Milton McGowan, who must be in his 50s or 60s, was tackled and thrown down by the police. You know, he was not happy about that. And he shifted his focus from Afua Rose to me and started to say, you know, it's your fault that had happened. And I was in shock because I am not the police. The police clearly thought that there was a reason to arrest this man. It wasn't linked to me. Yes, he was shouting all types of profanities and insults when I was performing, but I was aware that he was Afua Rose's troll. And because I've already had my own fair share of trolls, I wasn't willing to inherit a troll by association. And I remember having to shut Killa P the Pussycat down and just let him know, bro, I know that I'm here talking to you and I'm being courteous, etc. And I don't know what your agenda here is, like if it's to make me feel guilty for what happened to Milton McGowan, but anybody who tried to test me, them I go find out. And he was quite shocked because he hadn't seen that side to me. But you know, every woman has to have firm boundaries, and I have become quite good at having boundaries when necessary. I realized that he started to blame me for the video going viral of Milton McGowan being thrown down and trampled on by the police. But the fact is, I did not post that video. But a couple days, maybe the next day after the march, I literally went online and I saw that Afua Rose had posted this film of me singing Dirty Man, you know, and of Milton McGowan being trampled, manhandled. It just really wasn't a good look. So everyone, we're all adults, none of us are children, and we have the right to make our choices, but we also have to deal with the consequences of these choices. So I shut Killa P down about this, and I was a little bit ruffled, like, I could see that he was a narcissist in the chart. Like, can we just get to where we need to go? And that's when he started with what I am going to call love bombing. Now, I didn't mention this in the first video when I was talking about narcissists. In the first video, I spoke about a narcissist being someone who essentially has no core, has no center, and so they have no empathy and no true love for others. They are very manipulative. They like to feed off other people, and they like to gaslight, manipulate, and abuse other people as a way of filling this little void where their soul should be, with the agonies, with the stresses, with the energetic issues that come from the people that they trouble. Killa P and his love bombing. This guy started to offer me so many different things. He explained to me that he had so many resources in his home, that he had a studio and green screen this and green screen that, and that I could bring my band. He could film us doing all different sorts of things. Like, he was just offering so much. And I was just like, you know, I've just done a documentary series. Maybe you should go and check it out, because I was aware that as low as his intelligence is, and as extreme as his narcissism is, he did not even check me out to know what my scope was, what my background is, you know, and what I'm actually already capable of without these offers. So I told him to check out my documentary, Life After Death. And he literally took 2 minutes to check an 8-episode documentary. Some of these episodes vary between 20 minutes long to an hour long. And I intuitively knew he isn't going to watch this documentary because he doesn't want to know anything about you. He just wants to figure out how to kind of circle around you. So he watched the 2 minutes of the first episode, which is called My Jamaican Grandfather. And he called me back and he was like, you know what? I don't really know what to say. I don't think there's much I can offer you. You seem to have your thing on lock. But if I was to offer you something out of the many things I'm offering you, I would offer you like a microphone. And I explained to him, yeah, I'd left my studio in Jamaica and I was using my phone essentially to record the narration of the first set of documentaries. And he was like, yeah, I've got a great, I think it's like a microphone that you plug into your phone. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, hold on, but I still do have my laptop and I have recording software. So I wasn't aware that you had these USB mics, you know. Started thinking I should probably just get a USB mic for the computer. He had offered me so much, and for some reason, there was no discussion at this point anymore about this song. He had a strange way of looking at things. And at the time, this channel was called Afro Belly, okay? And he was like, you can't call your thing Afro Belly. It sounds too close to Afua Rose. You have to change it. And I remember saying to him, Afro Belly is the name of an entity and Afua Rose is someone's name. Why? Because they both start with A and have an F and an R and an O at some point. Why do we sound alike? He said, no, it sounds like you two are partners. You have to change it. And then he went into all of his criticisms about Afua Rose, which I won't even list here because that's not what this video is actually about. I think I mentioned some of them in the first video, the psychopathic wolf video that I did about him, right? So I noticed, okay, this guy has a lot of opinions. He's clearly duplicitous. I've just met him supporting this woman in a march, and yet he has so many negative things to say about this woman, and he looks like he's recruiting. But at the time, I wasn't aware of what he was recruiting for. After some time, he started to send me some videos with a man who he considers to be his greatest nemesis. So Killa P's childhood. Now, before this happened, Killa P, as self-absorbed as he is, had literally told me so much about his childhood, so much about his mother, his father, his children's mothers. I found it quite interesting because I'm very open with people who I feel comfortable with, but I was very aware that he was like painting this whole story about himself to me, and he was so self-absorbed. he didn't seem to care that there wasn't an equal exchange of information happening. You know, like someone who just goes on and on and on. And so he explained to me that he was conceived in Jamaica, right? But his mother came to the UK when she was with child with him. He explained to me that his mother was a very violent woman, and he told me very personal things about his mother and how she had a partner, and one day she came home in England, right, and her partner had stolen all of the furniture out of her house and how it had really affected her. He told me that as a young boy, his mother used to beat him and batter him so much that he would leave the house and just beat up any man that he saw. That was the energy, you know, I was so bad, I would just bust up a man because he was so angry that his mother was battering him in the way that she had. He told me that one day the social services came to the house to speak to his mother about his violent behavior, and his mother, coming from Clarendon, Jamaica, had just kicked down the social workers. I remember thinking, I have never heard a story like this. I've never heard a story of a Jamaican mother, of which I have one and I am one. I have never heard a story of a Jamaican mother in the UK kicking down a social worker that's come from the government. It was all so extreme. It was all so fantastical. It was all, oh my gosh. Then he explained to me how he went into foster care as a result of this and how he ended up going in and out of prison. And then he explained to me that he couldn't read. It was like an ongoing backlog of information that I actually had never asked him, you know. But I just let him talk because I was in the middle of my research and my true life experience with someone else who I had now identified was a born narcissist. You see, before this point, everyone who I had identified was a born narcissist, I worked it out after the fact because I didn't actually know prior how to do the astrology check. But at this point, I figured, okay, I've checked his chart. I can see he's a narcissist. Let me see how this plays out. And whoa, what a lesson. What a powerful lesson it was, and it has been, and hopefully it will be even for you guys listening, right? So he explained that he was in and out of prison and then he got into music, but he couldn't read and write, so that while he was in the studio and all the other artists were writing, you know, he would just come up with lyrics in his head. He just kept on talking and talking and talking about himself. And for that reason, I can't even repeat back all the things that Killa P, the pussycat, has said to me because it's quite a lot. I'm just trying to give it as succinctly as possible. So like a true overt narcissist, he was very self-inflated. He suffers from this grandiose sense of self. And he started to explain to me that he had come up in a well-known UK music group called Roll Deep, and somehow he was kicked out. At this point, he's told me so many different things. I can't remember all the details of everything, but he explained that he used to work with Wiley and he knows everyone in the industry, and that he personally is the person who is responsible for all of the great podcasts that have come out of the UK, because he is the one who had gone behind the scenes to all of the big podcasters in the UK, especially those from the music industry, the grime industry, and he had given them his expertise and helped all these people to create great podcasts, and now he was focused on his own. Now, I already knew your stories are way too decorative. You chat too much, you chat so much that you must be making some of this up, but I allowed him to reveal himself. He also told me that he puts movies out and that he had produced and put out this film called Honey Trap, and that's when he started sending me things. So I went to look for Honey Trap. I couldn't find it. I could see like a trailer of it, but I couldn't find it. And it was strange that if it was his film, he couldn't actually tell me what platform I could stream it from or where I could see it. And I realized, oh, this is part of your embellishment. He sent me some short films that he's been in, sent me some music videos that I had already seen because I had already done my research to check out his artistry, as I had foolishly thought that was the real reason why he wanted to connect with me. I wasn't aware yet, even at this point, what this recruiting was for, but I was aware that I was being recruited. So going back to Afua Rose, throughout our conversations, he kept on coming back to Afua Rose and complaining about her. He actually said that she had stolen money from the fundraising she was doing for her channel. And I kept on saying to him, look, if you feel this way, you should speak to her, because I met you through her. Because everyone who knows me, I'm very direct, I'm very straight to the point. I'm a truth teller in my family, so I don't really suffer fools gladly, okay, usually. But no matter how much times I told him, go and speak to her yourself, he never would. And so that was red flag after red flag and confirmation after confirmation that this guy was not an honest, genuine brother that anyone doing women's rights could call upon, but in fact, he was a wolf in sheep's clothing. So one day, he started to speak to me about how he used to be a roadman. Now, traditionally in England, a roadman is someone who was a narcotics dealer at some point in their life. And he explained that due to him being beaten so much and having this violent, aggressive personality, it just suited going into the underworld and being part of, you know, illegal trading of various substances and services, I guess. And he was given the impression that he was this big bad man. But in addition to that, he also said to me that he was totally afraid to travel to Jamaica on his own, and Jamaica is a place that someone will just wait for you at the airport and take you out. And I remember thinking, hold on, this doesn't add up. How can you be such a roadman, but you're afraid of going to Jamaica on your own? I go to Jamaica on my own all the time. I migrated back to Jamaica with my daughter, with no backative, no soldiers, no bad man presence. And I felt like this was the beginning of me meeting the wimp that was actually underneath this facade of bravado and strength. There was actually a little wimpy energy in there. And I did challenge him, like, what do you mean you're afraid of going to Jamaica? But clearly he didn't like that. So I didn't push it too much, but I made a note that this guy is acting so big and bad, but he can't even go to Jamaica. Hello. Killa P and Kevin Bennett. So one day I'm in my house just doing my creating, and he calls me and he is almost in tears. And he was like, I'm so upset. Can you talk? I'm so hurt at the moment. And he said to me that he had just gone to Croydon, I think it was, and he had seen one of his sons. And when he called his son's name, the son wasn't sure who he was, and that really hurt him. And so I asked him, well, how come your son doesn't know who you are? Because I don't deal with men who don't take care of their children, not as friends, not as business partners, not even as a collaboration. Once I find out that a man isn't taking care of his children, my view of him drops drastically. I realize this person might be a man in human years, but they haven't evolved yet into true man status. So Killa P explained to me that there was this man who was his number one enemy that had totally destroyed his life. And because of this, because of the efforts and all of the strategic moves that had been made by this man, he had been banned from seeing the sun because of the works of this monstrous enemy that he had. So I was like, oh, that sounds strange, you know. And he said, hold on, sis. Let me just send you this video. And so he sent me a video, and this is when I started to realize why Killa P was recruiting me. He sent me a video of a man called Kevin Bennett. This man, at the time, I had never heard of him before. I had never met him before. Do you understand? This is a South London thing. And outside of my life in Jamaica, I have always lived in North, West London and West London. I've never lived in South London. And I realized these communities have their own politics, their own heroes, their own roadmen, their own leaders, okay? So he explained to me, this is Kevin Bennett. Please watch the video. And in this video, I watched this man, Kevin Bennett, who was very well dressed. I'll link the video below, okay? And this man, Kevin Bennett, had created a whole interview with someone else who apparently, I don't know, this person is also well known in South London. And throughout the interview, Kevin Bennett basically explained on YouTube that Killa P is a police informant, and he gave a list of reasons why he felt that way and what he would class as evidence. You know, he provided his own evidence about Killa P being an informant. Now, when I was watching the video, I was very aware this Kevin Bennett guy, he's interesting. He's clearly of a higher level of intelligence to Killa P, but he clearly also knows Killa P from somewhere that's not in this day. Maybe they knew each other from back in the day. I wasn't sure what the story was.
So going back, a guy named Patrick, right? Yeah, they called him Killa P, all the rest of it. We're all from Stockwell Park Estate.
I know Killa P, I know, yeah.
Right.
We all grew up together,
right,
yeah.
But I've never hung out with him. Yeah. We've never been in the, even though you're from the same estate, it doesn't mean that you know what I mean? I'm not sure if he's a year or two even younger than me.
Yeah, it might be, yeah.
But never hung out with him, yeah? I've been in a room with him, but I've never hung out with him. So what happened now, going back to like 94, 95-ish, maybe even a bit earlier. My dates may be slightly off. Do you remember the time when there were Field boys who they were kind of turning Muslim and they were terrorizing people? You remember, So an incident happened when they went into Stockwell Estate and they up his house. Now, I don't think they were after him, they were after someone that he had a studio in his house. When they went for whoever in that was in the house, naturally, if you up someone's house, police is gonna come, right? From that time, Killa P, I could tell you for a fact, started working with the police because he was scared. He was scared of the boys and he was scared what was to come, so he started working with the police.
But see, when you're saying people are working police, that's a big statement, you know, so...
That is a big statement. Don't worry, I'm going to back it up. I'm going to back it up. That's a big statement, and I'm very aware that you don't make statements unless you can back it up. So I'm going to back it up, right? It's very important I'm going to back it up. It's a serious allegation.
Serious allegation,
And I'm not one to make statements or allegations frivolously.
Of course, of course.
It's not a hypothesis, it's a fact, right?
Oh, this is your enemy. And when I finished watching it, Killa P told me so many things about how this man, Kevin Bennett, has been attacking him for years in a multitude of crazy ways. Now, I am not saying this is true. I'm simply explaining what my experience has been with this narcissist. And often narcissists, they love to play the victim. And he had given me so many victim stories, from his mother's man stealing all the furniture out of the house when he was a child, to his mother beating him up so he beat up other people, to his mother kicking down the social workers so he ended up in care. I mean, so he was in prison at some point and he couldn't read and write. He had given me so many I am a victim stories already, and now it all merged into this bigger story. Like, imagine some psychological thriller. That is the level of the stories that Killa P told me about Kevin Bennett. He explained that Kevin Bennett had even followed him to Ukraine when he was touring. There's a woman, an Asian woman, that Kevin Bennett had got to follow him all around, whether in the UK or elsewhere, and she had reported Killa P to the police on numerous occasions for DV or SA. You know, it was an endless thing. Kevin Bennett had somehow got into partnership with the mother of this same child, and it had stopped him from seeing his children. That's when I realized, hold on, what is going on? He explained that Kevin Bennett had all of his social media pages shut down, his phones were hacked, his emails were hacked, and that they even post pictures online saying that Killa P had passed away, saying that Killa P's son had passed away, and just saying the most bizarre things. And when he broke down this horrific story, like the most psychologically thrilling, crazy story, he then ended it with saying, because Kevin Bennett had put a poster online that he was no longer with us in this life, his mother had really taken it badly and she had a stroke and went blind in one eye. And this is when I was like, hold on a minute, because up until this point, it really just felt like this is you and him in one piece of pasa, one piece of drama. But I didn't realize that it was going to be a story that started to engulf and include everyone in his family, from his children to his mother. And when he mentioned that about his mother, being that I'm not a narcissist and I do have empathy, I was like, hold on a minute. What do you mean your mom had a stroke and went blind in one eye? What do you mean by that? I think you need to stop now. I think whatever you're saying about you and this guy, Kevin Bennett, okay, but now you're talking about your mother and her health being severely affected. I don't know what's going on here, but I feel that you need some healing. I think you should focus on healing, because clearly this issue has eclipsed you and has affected your children, your partners, your family. He explained to me that his sisters, his family didn't speak to him for years because they were really angry. And it was just one big hub of chaos. And that's when I realized this is what Killa P, the pussycat, needs help with. This is what all of his intentions are seeded in. This man has been exposed as a previous narcotics dealer, as someone who allegedly used to walk around and attack people and be a bit of a gangster. This man has been exposed by someone who has a higher intelligence than him as an informant, and it has crushed that street cred. He had evolved into a lesser version of himself, you know. He was explaining that he couldn't even really be in Brixton. He had to leave Brixton because so many people just had it out for him. And I was just thinking, whoa, okay, this is your narcissistic placement, because I know that oftentimes when a narcissist's voice has been muted, they like to connect and surround themselves with people who have strong voices, people like myself. It even explained to me why he had connected with Afua Rose, because she has a strong voice and he had become a feeble, lesser version of himself. Killa P explained to me that he had done tunes with Ninja Man. This is an iconic Jamaican musician, and Spragga Benz, another iconic Jamaican musician. But he explained that because Kevin Bennett had released this information out into the public, he couldn't release these songs. And I started thinking, hold on, you can't release any new songs because you're under attack. You're explaining that anyone who associates themselves with you also receives the attack from Kevin Bennett. So why have you asked me to do a collaboration? Because you can't even release the music that you have with globally known artists. This is how the narcissist reveals themselves. So I excused myself, and I remember telling my family and one of my friends, like, this is what's going on. Check this video out. Don't you think this is crazy? And although I didn't know Kevin Bennett, I wasn't sure about his character either, because when I saw that video, I realized that that video is not a straightforward video. And if someone has a weak psyche, if someone really doesn't know themselves mentally, spiritually, emotionally, just that video alone could really affect their mental health. And you'll have to watch it for yourself to see what I'm talking about. But I realized Killa P is under the total control. It's like a spell that Kevin Bennett has uttered certain words into the public, and it has transformed. Well, I didn't know him before, so I don't know how much it had transformed him, but because Kevin Bennett had called Killa P an informer, it felt as if Kevin Bennett was the puppet master and Killa P was nothing but a small, dangly puppet. Now imagine as a narcissist, someone who likes to be the puppet masters of others. This man was at the whim of someone else. And he had sent me other videos where he was defending himself and, you know, speaking out against Kevin Bennett. And to be honest, I couldn't watch all of those videos because my time, right, my time is very precious to me. And I realized that because Killa P had started to focus on me as if I would be fuel for his narcissism, he wasn't taking into account that I didn't have time to just sit and watch all these videos and catch up on all this pasa. It was just too much. And then I noticed that we must have spoken 2-3 times after that. And every single time that I spoke to this man, no matter how the conversation started off about, okay, we're going to do this song, it always crept its way back to Kevin Bennett without my input. I realized that Killa P is completely possessed. His mind is possessed. He is obsessed. It even felt to me like maybe this was a deep friend that he had before, like someone that he loved, because the level of the impact of whatever he was experiencing was so extreme. I just couldn't understand it. And every time that he would veer and swing the conversation around to Kevin Bennett, he would become violent and ugly. You know, he would become vile. So I decided that I would have to cut this connection short because he wasn't interested in healing. He wasn't interested in wellness. He wasn't interested in music. He wasn't interested in the mystics. He wasn't interested in community. He cared nothing about women's rights. In fact, he had complained that many of the women who had gone onto Afua Rose's platform to speak about their assault experiences were lying. Even this lady called LB, he explained that he knew her son from he was a child. They were very close friends, and he knew for a fact that she was dependent on substance abuse, that she had sold herself, you know, to men, and he knew for a fact she was lying. And I personally wasn't feeling this uglier side of his character. So I had decided, you know what, if he calls you back, you're going to nip him in the bud. So in our second to last conversation, he called me. He started saying that he was at home and the electricity was cut off, and he started to panic because he felt like Kevin Bennett, who by this point is like this larger than life entity, the way he speaks about him, Kevin Bennett had sent people to cut off all the electricity on his road, and he was scared, and he started to speak about all different things about what he was going to do to this man. And I remember saying to him, look, you're so focused on this man that you have no peace. You have no ease. All you seem to do every single time that you speak to me is to tell me about this larger than life figure and to explain how much he's controlling your life. And personally, to me, you don't have freedom. You don't have ease. You don't have peace. You are literally in a traumatic state. You know, you're in an acidic state and you're not faring very well. So I would recommend that you focus on your healing. You focus on your mental health. You focus on your well-being. You focus on the health of your mother, who has become blind in one eye, allegedly, because of the actions of Kevin Bennett. Even if you have this battle to fight, you just focus on yourself and you try to make sure that at least you're right within yourself, because you seem highly paranoid. At the time, I didn't know if this was really happening or not, but he seemed extremely paranoid, on edge, obsessed, possessed, and he felt like it was appropriate to just call me and keep telling me, you know, because he was trying to use me as fuel, right? And I had had enough. I'd studied all I needed to study, or I thought I had, and I was no longer willing to listen to these conversations. So when I said to him, look, you need to focus on your healing, you need to focus on your peace. I'm a healer, that's my focus. It's not just what's happened. Yes, we can acknowledge the things that happen that traumatize us, but only so we can start that process of healing and coming back to peace and coming back to ourselves as we knew ourselves prior to these traumas taking place. And I kid you not, Killa P, the Pussycat, Patrick Nathaniel Knight, He started screaming down the phone. He started telling me that he wants blood. He has to take Kevin Bennett out. He started screaming and saying nothing will sate his spirit. Nothing will pacify his soul. Bear in mind, he doesn't have a soul because he's a narcissist, right? He doesn't care about no healing. He comes from a Christian background. He knows all about prayer, which I hadn't mentioned. He knows all about healing. That's his family life. And what he wants is BLOOD. And he was screaming. And I was just like, bruh, this now go work, you know? I don't know who you think you talk to. I don't know what kind of rapport you're trying to develop with me, but you keep contacting me to puke all of your internal filth all over me, and I am not the washcloth that is here to wipe up all of the dirt in society. That is not my role, because oftentimes when you work in wellness, people feel like you have to move like Jesus, you know what I mean? And no matter what kind of energy, no matter what kind of expression, that you have to be that white cloth that just comes to wipe up everyone's filth. But as a woman, as a Jamaican, as a woman of color, there's so many levels, labels, roles that I play that's taught me that is not me. I don't believe in that. I believe in boundaries. I believe in no's. You know, no, that doesn't work for me. And I don't subscribe to turn the other cheek. I prefer to walk away than turn the other cheek. And I feel that sometimes you don't turn the other cheek, you hit back. Because you have to have some standards about your life. It's not just that because one works in wellness, that means that they're a saint, you know, that they're a prophet. No, we have to demonstrate what we're teaching to other people, which is have boundaries, say no, and don't put up with certain things. So when he started to scream and just act crazy, this guy is full-blown crazy, okay? Not every narcissist is crazy, but this dude is off the wall crazy. And I will show many little clips just to show how amplified, how heated, how much he can lose his cool even after stating, I'm not going to lose my temper. Couple minutes, he's totally lost it. He makes violent threats, and I'm just not here for all of that. So I said to him, look, I've been living in Kingston for about 5 years now, okay? Hear what I'm saying. Anything that you feel that you should do, go and do it. But do not ring me to talk about these issues. Go and do what you think needs to be done to justify this situation, because clearly it is eating up your soul from the inside out, or is eating up your being from the inside out. But this thing where you're calling me just to wax lyrical and to scream about your issues, I am not your woman. I don't even know you like that. Just cut it out. And I came off the phone. That was the second to last time that we spoke. And the last time we spoke, I think he was pretty shocked because I had no intention of ever speaking to him again. I don't play with people. It's very easy for me to stop speaking with people. Growing up, observing narcissism without knowing what it was, I feel very confident, and have done since I was a child, to be like, oh, no, that doesn't work for me. I'm going to take myself away. So I didn't reach out to him. I didn't communicate. I was actually happy. I was tired of hearing his woe is me, woe is me. I was tired of being fuel for the sake of observing his behavior. I felt that I had learned what I needed to learn. He had proved to me that he was a total narcissist and borderline. He has some other issues going on. It's not just narcissism. He has some other personality disorders. And, you know, my life is about creating, healing, music, love with my family. My life is not about a bag of toxicities. He had become aware that my boundaries were better than any bad man, right? And so he started speaking to me about life in the 80s and what it was like, and how his mother used to send him to the shop to get cigarettes, right? And I remember him saying, don't you remember, like, your dad used to send you to the shop to get 1 or 2 cigarettes? And I said to him, well, my father has never sent me to the shop to get cigarettes. And on top of that, I explained to him, if you had watched my documentaries, you would know that my father had no purpose to buy 1 or 2 cigarettes, because my father bought multi-packs, like 20, 50. I didn't grow up seeing, you know, 1 or 2 cigarettes in the house. I grew up seeing a whole big Benson and Hedges multi-pack with the cling film wrap. And he was like, oh, how is that? And I said, well, if you had watched my documentaries, you would stop telling me this story about you were such a road man and you were such a bad man, because my father was one of the top people in the network that you were probably a part of, or that you grew to be a part of, and you were one of the little roadmen at the bottom of it. And I could tell that he was rattled by this. How is that? How is that? I must know your dad. I goes, bro, you don't know my dad, okay? You don't know my father. But the way how you tell your story of being the last small fish at the end of the chain of this underworld industry, of this substance peddling industry, well, my father was at the top of the chain. And if you had watched my documentaries, you would have found out that is because he ran his own cartel. And I said that to him because after a while of speaking to someone who just constantly speaks about themselves, who has no interest, and so is always assuming the mental state, the background of the person they're speaking to. He even said to me, well, you wouldn't really know about that stuff because you're from Jamaica. What do you know about that growing in the bush? I wouldn't know anything about buying a single cigarette because, in a condescending tone, I'm from Jamaica, so I grew up in the bush. So I explained to him, I didn't grow in any bush in Jamaica. My grandparents, however, did live in Porus, which is very bushy, on 7 acres of land, filled with fruits and vegetables, but they were returning residents, and I myself had a very comfortable, abundant lifestyle in Jamaica, and that's why I didn't really relate or understand these stories of Stockwell Estate, because I didn't know anything about that. It was only when I came to the UK in my teens that I first saw this inner city living. I wasn't raised that way. And I could tell that his ego had been blown because he had continuously made so many assumptions about me, so many narcissistic assumptions. But because his intelligence is low, many narcissists, what they'll do is they will research you. They will ask you questions so they know exactly who they're dealing with. That's a high level intelligence narcissist. When someone is low intelligence, they can't even see themselves, so they cannot see other people. So after I explained to him that I didn't really relate to his 1 and 2 cigarette story because my father ran a very successful cartel, he just went straight into talking about Kevin Bennett again. It was almost as if this is his comfort zone. This is his main tool that he uses to get empathy, focus, compassion from anyone who he's trying to use to recruit. This is what he uses to excuse the level of self-absorption that he has. And so we started talking about, I'm going to do this to Kevin Bennett. I'm going to do that. And I was like, bro, we have already had this conversation and I'm not going there with you today. And I'm asking you, if this is all you have to speak about, since you clearly don't want to do a song with me, that was never your true intention, I'm asking for us not to continue talking. And then he said, no, what do you mean? It's your fault we haven't done the tune. And I was thinking, this guy is crazy. I've allowed you to bring every single thing that you wanted to bring to me. I've allowed you to say everything you wanted to say. I've learned about your childhood. I've learned about your mother. I've learned about the mothers of your children. I've learned about the child that he claims that he raised for a period of time. I've learned about you being in prison. I've learned about you not being able to read and write. I've learned about you working with Roll Deep. I've learned about you listening to Spragga Benz and Buju Banton. I've learned about you having a song with Spragga Benz that you can't release, allegedly. Having a song with Ninja Man that you can't release, allegedly. He's told me that he had to run away from Brixton and run far away because the people in Brixton are after him. And not long after, he explained to me that he lives like 10 minutes away from Brixton in another small town called Streatham. I've learned everything. And at no point since you mentioned Kevin Bennett, your nemesis, of which you are not his equal because his intelligence level is clearly above yours. You have never mentioned this song to me before. And he started to get upset and say, well, I bought this equipment because I thought I had to set up a studio. And I was like, bruh, you told me that we were going to do it in your brother's studio that's close to where I was living at the time. I don't really have time for this. I wish you well. Take care, innit? Meaning, take care of yourself. And I came off the phone and I was relieved. I thought, oh God, what a filth. Let me just wipe off that oily, it's like oil, human oil. I don't know what this guy is trying to cover me with, but I'm not interested. And then I just got on with my life, never thought about it again. I thought, right, 101, narcissism, full human study. That is overt narcissism. That is a malignant narcissist. I don't need to do that study again. He is just like, or even worse than, many of the narcissists that I've met, because his intel is low and his self-awareness is low. And so after a while, it's hard to tolerate. One day I was talking to him on the phone and I could hear him speaking to a shopkeeper, arguing about the cigarettes are fake. And he said greetings to a lady. She didn't respond. And then he just totally had a tantrum. And I realized this guy is not mentally stable. Okay, he's not stable. And so that was the end of that. And a couple months later, maybe 3 months later actually, I went on one of my Instagram pages to advertise an event that I've been doing every year since 2015. And it was the 9th year of I Love My Room, my all-females annual goddess gathering. And I was speaking about it. And as I was speaking about it, I saw him pop up and I was really surprised because I rarely used that page. So I didn't realize that he had followed me on my personal Linnea pages, that's primarily for my music, and he had followed me on my other pages. And it was funny because just before he came up, I was saying how women can be so treacherous to each other sometimes and betray each other. And then you have external factors, the experiences they may have had with abusive men, you know, with men that have hurt them, whether physically, mentally, emotionally. And as I was talking about this, he popped up on the live and it was like no filter. And I was like, oh, like you, Killa P, you're an agent. I'm asking you to come off my live. Just please don't be here. This is for women. And he started to rant through the chat in the live stream. That's it. On Sunday, I'm going to go live about you. I'm going to make a podcast about you. And I'm actually going to insert the clip right here of what happened. So I see this brother Killa P he's come on. I hope he goes, because he is one of the prime examples of why I do this kind of work. But I'll save that video because I am going to speak about it. It's about when you have women movements that are about protecting women, movements, for example, like Afua Rose's movement. She's a lady who exposes on her platform, right? So she's got a lot of women who come and speak about their assaults, and needless to say, that attracts a lot of negativity. But sometimes the people who seem to be part of the team, this is how vulnerable womanhood is. Sometimes the very person who seems to be supporting, like the Killa Ps, they're not really supporting. That's how vulnerable womanhood is. You will be out here rocking a cause that says we say no to, and you will have a brother beside you who is saying that on camera, but when they're off camera, anti. And I colossally don't have any feelings about speaking out about things like that, because those are the kind of people that not only adult women need to be protected from, those are the kind of people that our children, our female and male children, need to be protected from. And the reason is this: they are agents in our midst. They are the ones who seem to be pro the well-being, pro the safety of women. And as you know, whenever women experience assault, it's usually someone they know. So when you have people who have agent-type mentalities, like a symbol of someone with an agent-like mentality is like Little Red Riding Hood, the wolf, or the Three Little Pigs, the wolf. You get what I'm saying? All them stories, the wolf is the agent. The wolf is the one who will knock on the pig's door and say, "Let me in. you know, but really he's trying to eat them. That's what Killa P is on. And that is what a lot of the men within the various communities that stand up and speak about these issues, it's like, what do they call it? Snake under grass or wolf in sheep clothing. I encourage that realization that the only safe place is you and those people who you've screened, who you know they're good people. Now imagine this. I came on my Instagram to talk to my audience and I see an agent and I call him out because I saw me tan, he's a big woman. I'm not inflammatory, but I'm also not going to just lie down and take foolishness. And before the man take away himself, he wants to stay on my live, listen and say, I'm going to talk about you on Sunday. I don't care. I don't watch that guy's content. He is an agent. An agent means you are a wolf in sheep's clothing. And when it comes to women's issues, that is one of the most scariest things that someone can be. Do you get what I'm saying? A wolf in sheep's clothing. Anyone who wants to make content about me, go ahead, because I know that speaking of me is going to elevate your work, and I wish you guys well. And when he realized, like a true narcissist, that his video did not have the impact upon me that he desired, I don't know what he said to recruit Afua Rose, but he was somehow able to manipulate her, especially because her character is flawed, it is questionable, and her morality is low. And he got Afua Rose to start this campaign against me. And essentially, they were trying to fire me up to get me to be in this kind of clash, and that isn't my style. I'm not going to be having a back and forth with you. I'm not going to be watching your degrading content and then coming back with mine. So I just let them do what they were doing. I realized, okay, this is part of the whole march energy, when people march for certain things when really their own cores are corrupt. He turned out to be a full-blown, malignant, overt narcissist, and he didn't realize, because he's very low in intelligence, that all he was doing was opening doors for people to come and tell me that he has been convicted for assaulting one of his female partners and has a history of physically abusing women. I went to Afua's march because she asked me to perform. I realized that she's truly corrupt, as are the people that she attracts, including Killa P, who, like herself, is an overt, malignant narcissist. And when I exposed him for being an agent, he partnered up with this trauma pimp, and as a result of them trying to attack me, it has led to their ongoing unraveling, as those who have witnessed this have seen them show who they truly are, how corrupt, deceitful, spiteful and vindictive they are. And this has led to doors opening that have meant that other people who know Killa P very well have explained to me that he is a serial convicted abuser of women, and it's very normal for him to physically attack women who he's actually in relationships with. I've also learnt, because Killa P is so paranoid, although he is the one who introduced me to the concept, to the image, to the name of Kevin Bennett, who I've never met before. When I spoke about him in my psychopathic wolf video, he then started telling everyone that I have been sent out by Kevin Bennett, when in fact I've only had the opportunity to speak to Kevin Bennett since Afua and Killa P started their campaign against me. This is how sick-minded, this is how malignant and manipulative these people are. But what it is that they lack the intelligence required, and all they have done is allowed me to feature them in this Exposing Narcissist series, as I showcase not only how my intuition, my narcissistic detectors allowed me to see before I even met Killa P that he was a narcissist, but to be able to give such serious examples of what interacting with a narcissist can bring. And for me, as a teacher, as someone who studies humanity very intently, it's actually an honor to become a back broad. I have the ability to deal with these kind of issues in a way where I don't play into the petty childlike games, but I can share this story to educate, to create awareness of those corrupt beings that are in our midst. Some of them can be very dangerous. Like, for example, the threats that have been made against myself and the people in my family only go to serve and to prove just how insipid the being of Killa P is. The behaviour of an elderly woman, a grandmother of many, who, by the way, isn't even allowed to see her grandchildren, show that age is truly nothing but a number. And if we don't grow into the wisdom that our years allow us, we won't be able to stop other people who are younger than us from seeing us as children. Both Killa P and Afua Rose are older than me in human years, and yet their intelligence, their wisdom, their awareness of self shows me that they are actually just here to learn some serious life lessons. And so what I would say is, to those of you who may be attacked by narcissists, don't be afraid of narcissists. As monstrous, as venomous as they may be, they actually deserve pity, because to be born a narcissist is to be born with a fate of punishment. It actually means you're being punished for something that you did in a previous life. However, if you become a narcissist because of life experiences, it may not be as much of a punishment, but something isn't quite right. Like, I've come from a narcissistic family. It hasn't made me a narcissist. That's a blessing to me. Do you see what I mean? So don't be afraid of narcissists. As much as they can be dangerous, once you can observe them, once you can intuit them, once you acknowledge their characteristics, it puts you in a much better place. You don't have to expose your narcissists, because, as I said before, they don't like exposing and they love the ongoing engagement. However, this video isn't for them, because I'm aware they don't have the intelligence or the development of their soul to even benefit from a video like this. This video is for those in humanity who truly seek to develop themselves, who seek to do good, who can take criticism and grow, because none of us are perfect. This video is for those people who have experienced narcissistic abuse, which is something that narcissists practice on anyone who they decide they are going to elicit fuel from. This is for those people who are healing or who have healed, those people who have never been acknowledged for the experiences that they've had with some of the most demonic people on this planet. This video is also for women who, for one reason or another, whether their basic characteristics or conditioning, feel afraid to assert firm boundaries, feel unsure of their own rules, of the way that they police their lives. This video is for those people who are afraid to speak up. I've had many people come forward to speak to me about Killa P and Afua Rose, people who are hurt by their actions in one way or another. And what I would say is, what we're dealing with here are undeveloped humans who will not have the ability to fully evolve in this life. And so what they deserve is distance, space, and pity. Like, oh, you poor puppy, you just can't do any better. You poor thing. You poor thing. You don't have the ability to feel empathy. You don't have the ability to feel true love. Your whole existence is based on inflating yourself because you're seeking some kind of worship, like a deity walking this planet. We need to pity these people. We need to teach our children about these characters. As I said, they can exist from childhood, and we need to take strength in our own discernment and thank our intuition for showing us the contrast between who we are and who people like them are. So this is the end of Exposing Narcissists episode 2. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave your comments below. Let me know what you think, and I will catch you on the next episode of Exposing Narcissists. Please, I'm going to try my best to make my videos as short and succinct as possible. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Linnea, and you've been watching The Feminine Mind. Deuces! They love her when she is submissive, when she is sensual, when she is fine. But they hate her when she expresses what is on the feminine mind.